G'day F1 fans. Who replaces the irreplaceable? Max Verstappen, he's very unhappy with the current set of regulations and where Formula One is heading. GP, his longtime race engineer, well, he is off to McLaren for 2028. So this begs the question, if Verstappen actually goes, what happens at Red Bull?
I don't think it's about Red Bull. What happens to the driver market, I think all hell will unleash. And the silly season will become even sillier.
Yeah, he is the biggest domino and the first one to potentially fall, and yeah, just everything will follow. We know most drivers, reportedly, all their contracts end at the end of the season for 2026, just a handful that have multi-year contracts. Although, as we keep discussing, multi-year contracts can be broken, and we don't know all the little hidden clauses, performance clauses, opt-out clauses within these contracts. So it is a very interesting time should Max walk away. It's that crazy period. We haven't had any races for a while. We've got a big gap, and then obviously the rumor mill goes into overdrive. But when you start to line up everything that's going on over within the Verstappen camp, these rumors definitely hold a whole lot more significance that this could actually happen.
We had Wimbo Formula on our last video, and he's basically said that he's going to make an announcement at the end of the year, and I tend to agree, and I don't think it'll be a sabbatical. I think if he goes, that'll be it. I think he will finish up his Formula One career, no regrets, and he'll be quite happy to just drift off into the distance and go and do other forms of racing.
Do what he needs to do. He can always come back in a few years if he wants to pull a Michael Schumacher return. Yep. The world's his oyster, really, as far as things go, and he's still young enough to do whatever he needs to do. Now, rumours. Probably one of the biggest rumours regarding, say, a high-profile replacement is our Aussie, Oscar Piastri. Ralf Schumacher did come out recently and sort of put a theory forward. There's a lot of theories that do go forward regarding a bit of a swapsy between Red Bull, or at least a bit of a package deal, you could say, between McLaren and Red Bull. So Oscar Piastri, probably the most highest profile driver currently linked. But there could be some other options, like we did mention, 2026, there will be a lot of guys off contract. But Oscar Piastri, let's just say this theory does come to light. Do you think it would be a good move for Oscar Piastri and Red Bull?
If it still looks shaky, as it does right now, if you're Oscar, you're going, nah, I'm staying where I know this package is, well, we've already seen it, can be competitive and probably more competitive than Red Bull. But in saying that, I think Red Bull seat will be open because, like I said, I think Max is going to be leaving. So I don't think Piastri would be a lock. I mean, Red Bull, no doubt, would love probably to have someone like Oscar Piastri. He was probably the highest profile. But then you look, you've got George on a 1+1. Kimi Antonelli, although he's apparently a long-term sort of deal with Mercedes. No one kind of really knows how long his contract is. Liam Lawson, Lindblad, I mean, Fernando Alonso. They're all high-profile drivers, but you would have to say the guys at the front, I mean, potentially Charles Leclerc.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Before we go externally, why don't we look inside the actual Red Bull Racing Bull camp?
Yep.
Because generally, Red Bull is always promoted within. You could say in recent times, Sergio Perez was the outsider over the last few years. You've got Lindblad, you've got Lawson there. Hadjar looks like a prime talent. So let's say Verstappen does leave, they can sort of build around Hadjar. If you're going to promote one of the younger Racing Bull drivers, it's hard to say. Lindblad's 3 races into his career.
Yeah.
So it's very speculative on his part. Although naturally there's a lot of talk that he is like a Kimi Antonelli. There's a lot more to come from him. Lawson could be a safe bet. But personally, I'd love to see him just stay at Racing Bulls and not have all that added pressure. But it would be a far different team than what he went to at the beginning of last year.
Yep.
No helmet, no Horner. You're not sitting like alongside a multiple world champion. You've got Hadjar, which you have a lot of experience with. Good little battle there between them last year. They seem to get on pretty well. So it's not the pressure cooker like it was.
Like you said, the safe bet would be Liam Lawson. Just given now his experience, he'll be, 2.5 seasons in Formula One? Like you said, there's not the pressure cooker guys at the top anymore. And I think he'd be taking a risk to get Yuki back into that seat after having a year out. So, yeah, if you were going internally, Liam Lawson is probably your best bet. I think Lindblad, they've learnt their lesson. These guys need to have at least 2 seasons in the sister team before they make the jump.
Yeah, I don't see the need to rush through Lindblad when we've seen, you could say maybe Gasly was rushed, Albon, Lawson definitely.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
And it just hasn't quite worked out. But like I said, they're not going up against an exceptional talent like Max that can really knock a driver's confidence if they just start getting absolutely smashed.
Well,
so
again, then you've got a proven combination there, haven't you? With Hadjar and Lawson together. Like you said, they had that experience last season. They make a good team. They're super close in competitiveness-wise. If you were going from internally, you have to go Lawson. You have to go Lawson. Look, unless Lindblad turns around and has a
Well, this is the thing.
A complete annihilation of a season and just dominates.
Yeah.
Like in terms of inter-team battle, the experience Lawson has now would even give him the edge over Yuki Tsunoda. Now Yuki's having a year out. I think that year out would hurt him trying to get back into the big team.
Well, I think for Yuki, his outlet is potentially Haas.
Yeah.
Unless Aston Martin do something crazy over there with a Honda partnership, but it seems to be most of the rumours are suggesting potentially Haas could be an option, jumping over to Toyota, of course, Japanese manufacturer, Japanese driver. Solov obviously is the next big talent coming through the Red Bull stables in F2, but again, it's so early in his development cycle. You wouldn't want to rush him through into anything. So he's probably the logical choice to jump into the Racing Bull seat for next year, should they promote internally.
But even if they bring him up a year early, I don't think it's a big issue for Toro Rosso. I don't think it's a big issue.
AlphaTauri.
Yeah, AlphaTauri. I don't think it's a big issue for Racing Bulls if they did bring him in a year early, just to cover that seat. Again, he's got plenty of time. You can give him 3 seasons and he'll still be, how old is he now? He's only a baby, right?
Yeah, young.
You move Lindblad up, he becomes the number 1 driver. It's not a massive risk if you brought him in a year early, unless you were planning on being super competitive and trying to fight at the front. Then that's a different story. But that's not going to happen because they are the sister team of Red Bull.
Well, they're pretty competitive against Red Bull at the moment.
They seem to be the main team, don't they?
Yeah. Close. Very, very close. Okay, going back out to outside drivers, Piastri, as we mentioned, the headline rumour. You got Charles Leclerc, which could potentially be a big one. I'm still not convinced with Charles. I think he will be a Ferrari driver for life. There's just something there.
Yeah.
There's something in his blood. I just don't think the Ferrari faithful will want to let him go. Yes, he has been very frustrated over the last few seasons. But when I think of it like the risk first reward, surely at some point, at some point, Ferrari.
Given these current regulations, man, it's like you're not going to be, even for Oscar, you're not going to be jumping to get into that Red Bull seat, I don't think. It's more like the guys a little bit lower down. Like you talk about the Williams boys, you got Albon, Sainz, maybe Fernando Alonso, I don't think Esteban's going to get it. Maybe Gabby Bortoletto.
Yeah, when I look at those sort of lower field teams, the driver that comes to mind, and we've discussed it before, is Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will say, oh, no, that couldn't happen because back in, I think, 2024, Carlos was in talks when there were all the rumours flying regarding where he was going to go once the Ferrari announcement was made that Lewis Hamilton was going to take his seat. And it was Audi, Red Bull were the main players at the time. And Red Bull went with what they termed as stability, sticking with Perez at the time, which in hindsight was a mistake. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, as they say. But people were saying it's not going to happen because of what that Red Bull didn't want him. But look, it's a new team. This Red Bull team, there's no Horner, there's no Helmut Marko. Mekis is in charge over there. I think he could do it.
Yeah.
I think he would definitely look at that option, particularly if Williams can't streamline this car
Yeah. No, I agree.
throughout the season.
I agree. I actually think Carlos Sainz, man, is going to be a driver in demand at the end of this season, eh? Left field, would possibly like to see Alex Albon have another crack. I think Alex Albon's at a point in his career where I think he needs to move on from Williams now.
Big call.
Yeah, I think he needs a change. Yes, we know the Williams is a dog this season, but I think if he keeps trajecting in the way he's going from the middle of last season, I think a change of scenery might actually do his career wonders.
He's potentially damaged his reputation a little bit. I don't think he's ever gotten over the fact, well, the perception is that he's ever gone, like people have gotten over the fact that he may not handle pressure that well.
Yeah, but like
because even when you look at the current situation at Williams, I mean, since Carlos sort of got on top of the car, it's something along the lines of 50-odd points to a few points in Carlos Sainz's favour. So that is not a good look. So I find Albon, whilst very likeable, very capable, I just don't know if he's got that mental toughness.
Yeah, possibly. But again, like you said, this time he's not going up against Max Verstappen. He'd be going up against Isaac Hadjar. Completely different atmosphere, like you said, completely different atmosphere. But if you're going to choose between the two, you're choosing Carlos Sainz 100%. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. But I'm just throwing another one there. Look, it's probably not going to happen. Actually, I would say it's definitely not going to happen. But I'd like to see him have another crack because, like I said, I do think it is time for him in his career to have a change of scenery.
Yeah, I think despite the results, he seems very happy over at Williams. He seems very relaxed. Gets on really well with James Vowles, and it seems to be a really good partnership. So yeah, Albon's a funny one because the performances you could say over the last half a year haven't really warranted a big team to come along and go, we definitely want you in our stables.
But say Carlos Sainz extends with Williams. So mind you, if you're Carlos's team, man, you're knocking on Red Bull's door going, hey, what's the situation? Everybody seems to be leaving. Is Max leaving? What's the go? But let's say Carlos resigns and extends with Williams. Then that definitely narrows the field down, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's no one else on the grid that I can sort of see sort of slotting in there from, when we're looking at race winners.
Yeah. Race winners. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Carlos Sainz seems to be the most obvious besides Oscar Piastri because Piastri, we still don't know how the season's going to turn out. Let's say, hypothetically, McLaren get on top of the car, which we both believe they will and become a whole lot more competitive. Is there still a bad taste in Oscar Piastri's mouth from what happened last year? Is there still some friction there between, say, him and Zach Brown, for instance?
Oh, man, like McLaren get on top of their car and it's more competitive than what Red Bull can deliver. Friction or no friction, you want to win championships, right? So do you accept that little bit of friction and stay in a more competitive team? Surely. Surely.
last season, and I'm not taking anything away from Lando Norris, deserved champion, but I just think there were moments there that I reckon Oscar Piastri must look back at and just be like, mate, I should never have just succumbed to
Yeah. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? But that's, again, that was his third season in Formula One, right? These rookies, right? They're going to go through periods, especially where they're going to learn things like that. Unfortunately, you were learning it when it was probably the biggest chance you had at winning a championship.
Yeah.
You know, and that's maybe where Norris had a little bit of an advantage, just his time he'd had in Formula One over Oscar, and understanding that things can change at any moment. You just got to keep your head down and keep working. So, I mean, Oscar's going to learn from that. We've spoken about it at length. The same things aren't going to happen. Oscar's, I think, going to be a little bit different this year.
Well, he's all good, mate. When he starts a race, he's on the podium. So he's looking good on that statistic.
Yeah, he's definitely looking more comfortable out of him and his teammate at the moment. So, but again, that's what happened last year too, remember? Oscar got off to that banger of a start.
Yeah, then Norris just nailed it, eh? That second half.
So, it's crazy, man. Like, because I just don't see Max going to. Why would you go to another team when you've already said that you're not enjoying the regulations? Yes, you might go to a front running team, but you're not enjoying driving the car.
But drivers enjoy winning.
Yeah, but he's already stated it doesn't matter if I'm winning, if I'm up the front, or if I'm in 8th place. If I'm not enjoying driving these cars and they're not fun to drive, I don't. Why bother going to another team?
Well, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge. We know that the regulations and the rule changes and this, the energy recovery and deployment systems are going to change a lot. I think once we get to Abu Dhabi, season's end, provided the silliness around here is all good, we'll probably look back at those first few races of the season with like, wow, how much has it changed so much? The racing's changed, the deployment's changed so much.
Yep.
Hopefully for the better. So maybe it is enough to entice Max to stay. Maybe Red Bull get on top of the car and then they, develop the chassis and it becomes a lot more competitive and some of those regulations set changes and things become a whole lot more enjoyable. I would say, though, it would be a big loss if Formula One, if he did walk away from Formula One. But as we always say, no one is bigger than the sport, right?
Yeah.
Everyone plays their part, leaves a legacy, leaves their mark, their stamp, and then, we all think we've lost an absolute legend, which we have, but then all this new young talent comes through and it's like the cycle starts again.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like after a champion leaves, you kind of, unless you're seeing them on the TV, you kind of forget that they were really ever there. It's just their legacy when they're spoken about, or you see them do an interview on the TV that you remember that they were such a legend in the sport. The biggest loss will not just be his racing and the way he races, but I think the way he is off the track. There's not too many people like Max Verstappen in the way he conducts him. Like, he's straight black and white. If he doesn't like something, he's going to tell you. He has his opinions and he's quite comfortable with that. Doesn't really care what anybody else says. It's
refreshing in today's climate of sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Because everybody's media trained, can't say certain things.
Yeah.
Don't want to upset the sponsors, the owners, all the money that's tied with it. So it is refreshing.
Yeah, if he was to leave, look, he'd be sorely missed, and we'll miss him for the first half of the season. But then once we get into the grid of the new season, it's kind of like I don't remember. I remember when Seb retired. I don't remember him in the next season. Like, they kind of just, and it's focus on what we've got now. So,
yeah. Well, the good news is we'll get to still see him on the track.
Yeah.
In some really cool racing, endurance racing, GT racing, that type of thing. So when I think about past sort of multiple world champions, yeah, like Seb, he stepped away. That was it. There was nothing else that he did. Yeah, Shuey stepped away, didn't he? He didn't compete in anything else. He just sort of came back after a few years to Formula One.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Button, he wasn't a multiple world champion. He continued doing some racing.
But you only remember Button because he's a TV presenter. Like, if he wasn't a TV presenter, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't probably even know that he did Le Mans or he was driving in the WEC. Nico
Obviously, the
Rosberg.
diehard fans would, but yeah, casual fans.
Yeah, like if you just follow Formula One and don't follow any tin top or endurance racing or GT3 or World Endurance or anything like that, then yeah. Nico Rosberg, again.
Yeah, he stepped away, didn't he?
Yeah, if he wasn't a presenter for Sky, you probably wouldn't. Like, yeah, he won a championship, but they just sort of.
Yeah, but good old Nico. Like, I think with he's just so embedded into the Lewis Hamilton law that there's always that connection.
Yeah.
With particularly that 20, when did he win? 2016.
Yeah.
2016 season?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, 10 years ago. Just like that. Oh, mate. Super fast. Well, wouldn't it be crazy from Formula One's perspective if Fernando's most likely going to walk away this season, but say Fernando, Hamilton decided to leave, and Verstappen's decided to leave all this year, all three of them. Team up, do Le Mans, boys.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? That would probably be one of the biggest exoduses of, when you look at it from a statistical standpoint of championships and race wins, podiums, pole positions, the
13
lot.
or 14 championships gone off the grid.
Yeah, how many is it? 7?
4 and 2.
Yeah, 13.
Yeah, 13.
Yeah.
13 championships.
And probably about 200 race wins. Because I think Fernando's got to be around 30-odd.
Yeah.
Verstappen's in the 70s. Hamilton, he's up to about 103, 104?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that would be huge.
Well, I mean,
unprecedented.
When you think about it,
it's.
Maybe.
I think Hamilton. Look, I'm still 50-50 on, because so far this season, definitely a lot happier, more of a competitive car.
If he keeps going like he's going this season,
he's going to stick.
He's going to take that option
with Charles.
He's got that option, and exactly right. If he can stick with Charles this season,
I
don't even think even if he doesn't win the championship, but I think if he's way more competitive, he'll take up that option for 27.
That's what I'm thinking too,
mate. And then that leads, the questions of, you've got Ollie Behrman, but he has an option for 27 too. And I think if you were in Behrman's camp, you go, look, mate, you're still a baby. Take that extra year. Just bide your time. You're going to get that Ferrari seat regardless. There's no rush. No rush to get in it. Perfect example, George Russell. Look how long he had to wait. And he was probably 2 years past being ready. 2 seasons past being ready to get into that Mercedes seat, but he had to wait. So I don't think that's...
Just throwing it out there with George Russell. The Mercedes rumours ebbs and flows with Verstappen. Let's just say Verstappen sticks around, goes to Mercedes. What would you... They'd definitely replace George Russell, right? Even if he wins a championship this year.
Yeah, I mean...
Mercedes would replace him, because you've got to keep Kimi as
you've made the big hoopla about Kimi's your future.
So he'd basically be a bit like a Damon Hill when Damon Hill won the championship in 96, and then where did he go?
We're only 3 races in and you're saying he's won the championship already. No, but I agree. I agree with you. Like, far out, man. Like, that's brutal.
It is brutal.
Because when we think about how brutal Red Bull have been with their drivers.
It's very brutal. Like, to have a driver become world champion,
your young development driver,
you don't keep him.
Get you that world championship, and then you go, thank you, see you later. Oh, you would be
tough,
filthy, surely. But you're exactly right. It's going to have to be George.
And then where would George go?
Oh man, this is.
Well, the thing is, George is solid. Look, let's.
There's only 3 competitive seats. Let's say. Okay, maybe not even competitive. There's only 4 big teams. You're not going to go to Racing Bull. You're not going to go back to Williams, I don't think. You're not going to Aston Martin, not in the state they're in. I don't know.
Audi.
Maybe Audi.
I think
Because
Audi's it's factory, right?
It's factory.
And we know that the money is going to be pumped there.
Yeah.
Aston Martin, if you want to be a bit more long-term, you got to think of Aston Martin. This is the bottom. There's only one way to go from here.
Yeah.
Right? It can't get worse than what it is. And I think some of these teams, particularly teams that have huge budgets like Aston Martin, like, say, Audi, if they are on the bottom, it's like they have the resources, they can get the brain power, the IQ power, they can bounce. They can bounce back.
Yeah.
So Aston Martin for George Russell could be quite the spot. And again, we've made a joke in the past, perfect fit. George Russell suit, Aston Martin, the whole Bond theme.
Well, what about Sainz to Aston Martin?
Kind of like when I think of the grid, he's kind of like the dark horse, because he's so solid, he's adaptable, he's a race winner. He's got everything going for him. He's like 30 years old now, so he's realistically could probably come into his peak years.
Because when we look at it right now, this is all based off Max leaving leaving the sport. I think Oscar Piastri should stay at McLaren, given that's one of the competitive big teams. So that really leaves Albon, Sainz as the biggest piece of the puzzle. Piastri's still contracted till the end of 28, so he doesn't have to go anywhere. I mean, he could probably even turn around and go, hey, I'm staying. I don't want to go to Red Bull. You think with Mark Webber, it's probably not the case, but you could easily turn around and go, no, I'm contracted to 2028. So it's either going to cost McLaren a shit ton of money to get rid of him, or he makes a decision to go himself.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. I wouldn't go to Red Bull right now. You've got to wait and see. I think potentially at the end of your contract in 28, 100%, then make a decision to go to Red Bull, because then you've given the regulations and the teams time to settle in, and then you would imagine by the end of 2028, that's it. That's the order for this next set of regulations.
It's going to be a bit different, I think, compared to the past because of the A duo regulation, or the changes that they can make with the engines as well. Because like when you think of not the last set of regulations, the ones that came in for
you can't imagine
the hybrid era, right? When Mercedes came out of the blocks, and basically dominated that first however many years of the hybrid era.
But you can't imagine every single season they're going to be going in and having that system every year, because eventually that's what these rules are for, right?
It's an equalizer.
So by the end of this season, you should have all the engines as close as possible. Then they go into next season. The engine regs are the same. All you're doing is just letting teams be able to catch up. At a certain point, all the teams are going to be caught up and going to be within that tolerance that's required. So that's what I mean.
It's more down to chassis and aero.
So then that's what I mean. By the end of 28, we should probably see where we're at with what the pecking order is, I guess, so to speak, for the rest of this regulation set.
Yeah, that's why I find this season fascinating in that aspect, because going back to what I was saying with the hybrid era, it was like Mercedes came out of the blocks and they just dominated that era because there was no regulation in place really to give other engine manufacturers the leeway and the extra time to then develop to catch up. And, going into from last year, we're all talking about, the Mercedes power units, they were the ones ahead. And clearly they are. But that advantage is, going to get closed relatively quickly. I don't know if it's going to be closed throughout this season or will we get into next season. I don't know exactly how fast it's going to be. But based on that A-Duo regulation or rule set, there will be that great equalizer. So then you're starting to look at, all right, who are the designers of the actual car itself, the chassis?
Yeah.
the aero, that type of thing. So you could be, say, Oscar Piastri and go, okay, I've got the Mercedes in the back and that was the great advantage, but perhaps this engine isn't going to have that type of advantage. Maybe Red Bull is a decent option with, where they're going to go if you have that confidence that they can develop the car, the chassis side.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Wait till the end of 28 and then you'll have a good idea going into 27. Not even 2028. Maybe wait till the end of next year.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a good idea. Because like you said, look, at the end of the day, it's still going to be the top 4 teams, aren't they? It's just whether the rest can pull off the dark horse move and get into the fight. So, yeah, maybe not wait till 28, maybe wait till end of 27.
Yeah.
For some reason in my head, man, I was thinking we're in 2027 when I said 28. So, yeah.
Been in the DeLorean, mate, and you've jumped. Jumping around time.
Yeah, I don't, right now, I would not be rushing into that Red Bull seat, even if it did become available.
Yeah, I think it's more attractive if you are sort of that midfield below.
Yeah. And then again, there's only I wouldn't even say a handful of drivers. There's a few select drivers that you would probably be willing to take.
Yeah. Look, Carlos is definitely ticks all the right boxes. Yeah. Carlos and Oscar, of course. Charles, I just think Charles is just, he'll be a one-man show there. Charles, please, you got to win a world championship at one point. The man has to win one.
Yeah, you never know, man. Sometimes a change is good.
Yeah.
Because how long's he been at Ferrari, man?
It was Alfa Romeo first, right? And then 2019, I'd like to think.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to
2019?
Surely you'd imagine they just throw the kitchen sink at him to stay, regardless. Let's be honest. Hamilton's time is limited. There's no doubt about that. Like, he's not going to drive till he's 47.
No.
Even though he says he wants to continue for as long as he can, I think at some point.
Well, there's a lot of baggage with Kim K, mate. Like, that's surely going to take up a bit of a time, wouldn't it?
I don't know. Just, right now, just keep doing what you're doing, love, because it seems to be working. He seems quite content and quite happy within himself, which I think is massive. Who knows? Maybe he missed a little bit of that companionship.
Maybe, mate. Maybe that was the secret sauce.
Yeah. And I think with Ferrari, look, there is no rush, especially when it comes to someone like Ollie Behrman, because he's so young, man. He's still so young. So another even if it was another 2 seasons, we saw what George did, right? Stayed in Williams, like I said, probably 2 seasons too long.
Yeah, comes into Mercedes with a bucket.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Oh, poor George. And then he hypothetically goes on, wins a championship, and they cut him.
Yeah.
That's a book.
Mate, this silly season is going to be quite cool. It's going to be...
this is it. That first domino to drop is going to be massive. Whether it's Lewis or Max, even Fernando... I know Fernando, he's lost a bit of his, I wouldn't say his aura. It's Fernando, man. But Fernando, he's not held in high regard, I think, as he once was with, you could say, the new sort of fans.
Yeah.
But I still think if he decided like mid-season to go, this is my final season, that will throw up quite a big change, because despite how bad Aston Martin are right now, I still believe there will be drivers that would be like, mate, this is an opportunity here.
Yeah, it's still a big team. Like it is a big team. Like it should be with the McLarens in terms of being a big team. It's just, unfortunately, their performances haven't matched their budget. Any one of those pieces to fall, maybe Mercedes, possibly Red Bull, possibly Carlos Sainz makers of the season, Aston Martin, possibly Audi. Like this year's grid, in terms of silly season and driver swaps, could be absolutely massive.
Well, we haven't even really mentioned Alpine, and this is the thing, like Colapinto, he's definitely under a lot of pressure to keep his seat going into 2027. Pierre is locked in until 2028, and he's performing magnificently over there. I was going to try my best French accent saying magnificently, and then, definitely.
Man, I'd be throwing the kitchen sink at Carlos. I'd be trying to get Carlos in that car, man. Carlos or Alex. Either one of them. For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Unfortunately, as much as I like Colapinto and I want him to stay in Formula One, right now, like, again, he could change and he could have a stellar season and then earns his contract extension. But if you get to halfway through the season and Colapinto's still kind of doing what he's doing with one or two good races here and there, and you know someone like Carlos Sainz or Alex Albon, rule Esteban Ocon out, that's never going to happen. Even Ollie Behrman. Throw the kitchen sink at Ollie if you think you can get him. But for me, you'd be wanting one of those two Williams guys in that car.
Do you remember my theory that I brought up last year regarding Kimi Antonelli?
Oh, he loves this theory. He loves this theory, eh?
The funniest thing is it still gets so many views, and it was like from ages ago.
Yeah.
And it was regarding, at the time, Kimi Antonelli was going through a rough patch with Mercedes. We knew at the time Mercedes power units were going to be in the back of Alpine for this year. And I mentioned, how about you just shuffle Kimi over there just for a season for development and then bring in Max Verstappen and George Russell together. Can't happen, mate. You couldn't do it. Toto couldn't do it.
Oh, who knows, man? Who knows what the...
Mate, it's a silly one. It's a silly one.
Toto's come out and said we're not looking at Alpine to be...
a junior team, mate.
A junior team. Like, it's not what we're about. We don't need a junior team.
Well, this is in regards to him buying a stake into Alpine.
Stake into Alpine. But it gives you an option there, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
An option to keep George happy, keep Kimi in the family, and
snag a certain Max Verstappen.
Snag your big fish that you've been trying so hard to get. Oh, either way, I think it'd be rough for either of them, eh?
Yeah.
Keep Kimi, send George to Alpine.
For me, it's just like keep it as it is, mate. George and Kimi together and let them duke it out for a few seasons.
I mean, look, we're only 3 races in, but right now, there's no reason to get rid of either of them. I tell you, it would not be a good look for Mercedes to burn George like that, even for Max Verstappen, because George is will be a current world champion. You can't do it.
Maybe we could be eating these words, come the season end, and it's like George Russell isn't even in the mix for a world championship. It's hard to fathom that. I don't think that's going to play out like that.
Yeah.
But let's see. This is the thing. This is what happens when you have too long of a break between races. All these silly theories come about and all these silly rumors. We did mention that we thought, you were like, nah, they'll keep the rumor train going. Got to keep Formula One in the forefront of people's minds. Don't want to lose that short attention span of all of us goldfish.
Yeah.
When it comes to Formula One. But viewers at home, I'd love to know who you would pick if Max Verstappen did walk away from the sport at the end of this year. There's even a small little inkling inside me that come the midsummer break this year, if things don't improve with the regulations, Red Bull is still an absolute handful. Maybe Max could leave mid-season, but I don't think he would leave GP hanging like that. I think there's still like a lot of loyalty, so to speak.
I don't think
he's that type of dude that would just get up and run.
I don't think it'd be a good look for him either to jump mid-ship when the team's struggling like that.
And there's no one within Red Bull that I think would be trying to push him out.
No, absolutely
not.
Like
Mecky's definitely not, mate. Yeah. Definitely not. So, yeah, end of season possibility. If you just who is it going to be? Without any debate, nothing like that. Max leaves. Who's in that Red Bull seat for 2027 alongside Mr. Isaac Hadjar?
Are we talking anyone on the grid?
Anyone on the grid? Who do you think is going to...
Contracts don't matter?
Yep, because contracts really don't matter.
Yeah.
Who's filling it? Who's replacing the irreplaceable? There we go.
If I could pick anyone, that's it. See, that makes it even harder. Bruh.
You're on the clock. 10 seconds. 10-second countdown.
Your best bet would be Oscar Piastri or George Russell.
Or got to pick one, mate. Just one. Who's in it? Almost like a prediction.
Carlos Sainz. Sorry, left field. I stick with what we originally think. I think Carlos.
Yeah. I think it's Carlos.
Yeah.
Internally, Liam, but externally, I think Carlos. I think they'll want a proven race winner in the seat. The sponsors probably want a race winner. Yeah, Carlos ticks all the boxes.
Yep. And I can't see Oscar leaving, especially if he's more competitive than the Red Bulls.
Just depends, mate. What plays out over the next few races up into the midsummer break? How many races we got till midsummer break? Midsummer break is what, August?
It's after Hungary, isn't it?
Yeah, generally it's after Hungary. I'm going to have a look at this race calendar. Even some rumours circulating around, don't want to go too in depth about it, regarding maybe pushing Abu Dhabi a week later and then slotting in Saudi Arabia.
Possibly,
There's
but
been
then it's
some
like
little rumours about that.
we've had 5 weeks off now. Why couldn't we just put a race in the summer break?
Well, I think why they're thinking about that is logistically it makes more sense because I think don't they go Qatar then Abu Dhabi at the end of the season?
Yeah.
So if they just pushed Abu Dhabi out one and then you've got a track that was already meant to be on the calendar, there's no...
Geez, then you're pushing it close to Christmas.
Christmas gifts for all of us for being patient.
Yeah. No, I think just leave it at 22 now. I think you made the decision.
Yeah, I think so too. Come Miami on the 1st of May, so we're still a couple of weeks away. It's almost like a season reset.
A season restart.
You know,
Like,
considering
there's some
changes
teams
that they're going to bring in. And
yeah, there's obviously some teams that would like to have kept racing.
Mercedes.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of other teams like Williams, possibly even McLaren, would be happy with that break. Like you said, then we basically restart a season reset. Plus then there's possible implementation of some regulation adjustments to help with battery deployment, the way in which we go racing. So it is like going to be a complete new season.
It's one of the races that I've never really been a fan of, but I'm actually really looking forward to it. Not just because we've had a big break, but because of what you just mentioned. But as far as summer break goes, obviously we've got Miami, so Canada, then Monaco, Barcelona, Austria, Great Britain, Belgium, and then you're right, Hungary. So there's around 8 races, and then we go into the traditional European summer break.
And it's only 2 races to Monaco? Because that's when the first set of engine updates will be unlocked for certain engine manufacturers.
Well, this is the thing as well. Like when we get to Miami, first week of May, we then don't have racing again for 3 weeks, Canada. And then it's another couple of weeks until Monaco. So we don't get another back-to-back race until we get to Monaco. Then it backs up with Barcelona. There is so much potential development time. I know the teams can only do so much, but there is a lot for teams to change, and this is why I think.
So you would imagine once we get out of that summer break, the team should be a lot closer. A lot closer. We're not going to see the massive gaps.
It's quite intriguing to see what may just happen. And this is why I'm a big believer is by the time we get to season's end, we'll look back at the start of a season and it'll be one of those seasons where the changes were very wide.
Yeah.
The differences from race 1 to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Quite wide, potentially. Because the last time I could really think of that was, I know there'll be other people that'll be like, oh, this season, that season. Maybe 2009 with Braun and the whole double diffuser thing where they just came out of the blocks and just monstered everybody. And then the other team sort of caught up. And then that's when we started to see the emergence of Red Bull. They won basically nearly all the races at the start of the season or halfway through and then basically didn't win one for quite some time.
Yeah.
By the time everyone caught up.
But they've done the damage in the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Mercedes, right? They're probably set to lose the biggest out of every team with these 2 races not happening.
Yeah.
And then we go into Monaco, and Monaco, that's when the engine upgrades will be unlocked for Ferrari, Audi, possibly Red Bull powertrains. So again, that's another loss of advantage that potentially, like, you think that's 50 points left on the table? Like, it'd be even more than that, but like I'm talking in terms of, say, George Russell. Yeah, well, constructors, right? So
yeah.
That's 50 plus then, 50 for George, 50 for Kimi. There's like massive amount of points potentially lost before the field could close up. Or has the chance to close up.
Well, like you said, maybe it all was a blessing in disguise missing out on these 2 races out here in the Middle East due to the silliness of a few world leaders. And
the ongoing escalations amid the Middle East tensions.
We're going to start our political podcast.
Yeah.
We dabbled in it with Wimbo. Maybe we just go full bore political.
Yeah.
Would get cancelled.
Oh, for sure.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Silenced. Deported. All of it. Very risky. All right, Mick, let's wrap it up. I would just like to say, if you did make it this far, hit that like button, give us a sub. We're building now towards 1,000 subs. Can we get there before season ends? Enough of me babbling. Just say dribbling. It's just dribbling now. Go for it, mate. Final thought.
This is the $70 million question. Is he going to stick around? Is he not? We tend to think that he's not going to. It'd be a shame for him to leave Formula One, but I think it's inevitable because he's currently not happy. And I think the world of endurance racing are doing everything they can. And that just keeps calling and keeps calling. But yeah, like G said earlier, we'd love to know who you would replace Max Verstappen with. If you could pick anyone from the 2026 grid, who would you pick? Make sure you do like and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. We'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, we'll fire back at you.
Yeah. Until then, we will catch you in the next one.
Catch ya.